everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Moans and Bones, where I am Una the Moans.
And I am Othaya the Bones. And today we're going to be continuing the Goosebumps series with number 2 of John Wolfe's series, The Goo and the Gosling. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but
That's right.
yeah, I think so too, but you never know. English is weird. But yeah, we're going to be continuing on this series that we're doing for the month of October, and we're going to be taking another look at a couple of Goosebumps books that he wants to go over with us. So let's get right to it. Do you have any comments from the last one, Una? Have you remembered any Goosebump moments or books that you particularly like?
I actually just remembered these puzzles a family member glued together to make a picture. And one of them, as Google searching Goosebumps images, one of them, I found one of them. I was like, oh yeah, it's the fat hamster, crazy gooed up, genetic modded crazy hamster.
Oh, that's not ringing a bell for me. The cyborg hamster.
I'll show you again later.
Oh, that would have been a perfect character for Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, let's get right into it then, eh?
What's it like to read Goosebumps as an adult? Is Monster Blood as weird as I remember? Does Say Cheese and Die hold up? And hey, what's with that new Disney Plus series? Answers to these questions and more coming up.
I have not
in this
watched that.
Special report. Am I gonna have to
New
come up with a
series.
unique intro for every single video? There's 62 of these books. Does this one suck? How about this one? Well, whatever, we got through it. Adult beware, you're possibly in for a scare.
As an adult.
Last video, we revisited the first 2 stories in the original Goosebumps series. Welcome to Dead House and Stay Out of the Basement. And they got decent scores overall. And maybe you thought to yourself, are we gonna be eating this good for the rest of the series? Well, I'm afraid not. Our streak of good luck ends with the next book in the series, Monster Blood. I remember not liking Monster Blood much as a kid. I remember thinking it was silly and not scary at all. But I'm also open to the possibility that little 9-year-old John could have been wrong. But looking at the cover, we're not off to a great start. I don't know what the consensus Goosebumps community opinion is on Monster Blood's cover art, but for me, this cover isn't Jacobus' scariest work. We got some green goo dripping down some stairs, and there's some glasses in the middle.
I feel kind of
this might be
neutral
scary
about
to
it.
a housemaid or a janitor or something. Or maybe some scaredy cat.
I still think it brings a mystery. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't feel negative about it either, or positive. I don't find it particularly scary. It's what happened. It's more mystery there. That's pretty much all it has, though, to me. It's not because it clearly isn't. Well, maybe it's a family member bleeding out green blood.
Yeah,
I would be more
maybe they
concerned what the green is coming from.
Maybe the monster
true.
was a friend and it's bleeding up there. I don't know.
I'm trying to read what it says here, but it's a bit blurry. It's a monster blood drive. Oh, it's a monster blood drive. Wow. That.
Oh gosh. That makes me concerned for the monster.
Right? Yeah, the monster might need an ambulance from this cover. It's bleeding out. Oh no. You good?
Yeah.
Cat little kid. But we're adults, remember? Some of us
I like
even
the blue
have
and yellow,
kids of
though.
our own. And if you have a kid, you've seen worse than this on a normal Tuesday. And then there's the color scheme. Orange and blue. I guess it's fine, but it can't save it. Just for fun, let's take a look at the 2008 classic Goosebumps reprint, which is much more cartoonish and dramatic. Not a fan of this one either. It's kind of worse than the original, to be honest. And now it's...
It cuts out the mystery for sure with that art. Cuts out the mystery hard.
Yeah.
time to reveal the brand new renamed category for the cover, which I'm proud to say I came up with myself. I'm giving this one 1 out of 5 Necronomicons. Yeah, that's right. The Necronomicon is the new category name. It's the most notorious book cover in all of horror, after all. All right, well, let's hope the insides of Monster Blood are better than its outsides. Yeesh. The story of Monster Blood is one that Mr. Stein thought was so good, it deserved not 1 sequel, not 2,
The fat
But-
hamster?
3 sequels.
Oh, I'm actually recognizing that one. The one he's holding in his right hand, the one with the weird purple, like slug monsters. I think I've read that one.
Yeah, that's the one that I'm not sure.
I don't know about the frickin' hamster gerbil thing
You
over
gotta
there.
cover. Look, witness its glory.
That's so many sequels. I guess he really liked this concept.
And
I
that's just in the
guess.
main series. There's even more of them in the sequel series. Maybe after we're done rating
What?
all of them, you can tell me what the big deal was, because I'm not seeing it. Monster Blood kicks off with our main character, Evan.
I never
who's
watched the
getting
show
dropped
of it.
off at his great aunt Catherine's house while his parents go house hunting for their upcoming big move. Right away in the book, you'll note that this is told in third person, just like the previous book, Stay Out of the Basement, was. And it's unusual because the vast majority of Goosebump books are told in first person. Anyway, Evan is brought to Aunt Catherine's house by his mom, although in the TV episode it's both parents. I guess to highlight traditional family values or something. So you may be wondering what Aunt Catherine is like. Well, that depends. In the book, it describes Great Aunt Catherine as having black hair and looking younger than Evan expected. It even specifically says she is not a white-haired, elderly-looking lady. But in the show, she's a white-haired, elderly-looking lady. The
Oh
actress who
my
plays Aunt
God.
Catherine is actually still alive. Her name's Corinne Conley, and she's 94 years old. She's still
damn.
performing, too. Look, she voiced some characters in Watch Dogs Legion just a couple
What?
years ago. All right, sorry, back
That's
to Aunt
awesome.
Catherine.
Good for
You
her.
Another
go,
difference
lady.
is that in the
I
book,
know,
she's
right?
actually deaf, while in the show, well, she's clearly not. It's all come rushing back to me now.
They made a deaf character in the book, a musician in the like a conductor?
I
What?
guess they thought that worked better and they could just sidestep it. I don't know.
That's so different though than what just like so
Yeah.
far opposite what you can go from the source material. Oh my god. I really, I always wonder what that's like being in like a meeting room where they're discussing these things. Like, how did they reach that alteration conclusion in the meeting when they were like writing the script for the show? Like, well, she's deaf in the book, but if we make her a conductor.
Yeah.
It wasn't the
Well, maybe there'll be a reason here.
Yeah, true.
book that I disliked so much, it was the show. If you watched my last Goosebumps video, you may remember that I mentioned that the Welcome to Dead House and Stay Out of the Basement TV episodes were both two-parters. And even though they deviated slightly from the source material, they were still able to get most major details in the episode. Well, the Monster Blood TV adaptation is just one episode. And one episode it was.
Hello, Evan.
Like right from the jump, they make Aunt Catherine the complete opposite of what she's supposed to be in the book. She's kind of just an eccentric old lady in the show, but in the book, she is weird. She asks Evan repeatedly if he likes beef, and then she moves on to repeatedly ask him if he likes, quote, the girls. The Monster Blood book is pretty weird. The dialogue in this one is just so different from the previous two books. While the kids in Stay Out of the Basement and Welcome to Dead House were a little bratty with each other, they also took their parents pretty seriously and remained consummate professionals once the spooky stuff started. But our main man, Evan Ross? Nah. Evan hates Aunt Catherine.
I still think she's creepy.
Here's a charming moment where he shouts at her that she's a, quote, old coot, and then acts like it was fine to say because she's deaf and can't hear it. So yeah, Evan, kind of a little One positive thing I will say about Evan, though, he loves animals, especially his dog Trigger he brings with him to Aunt Catherine's house. In the book, Trigger is a Cocker Spaniel, but in the show, he's a Collie mix. Interestingly, you may remember that Petey from Welcome to Dead House was also a Collie mix. I wonder if they use the same dog for both roles.
Petey, for a dog, you're a great actor.
Aunt Catherine isn't a fan, though, and insists Trigger be tied up in the backyard outside. Evan decides to take Trigger out on a walk when he meets neighborhood girl and love of his life, Andy. Andy's played by Sarah Podemski, who you may recognize as Rita from Reservation Dogs. Andy asks Evan who he is, and he says, "I'm me." I know he's 12, but this guy has absolutely no riz.
No, I'm just staying with my aunt for a while my parents look for a new house in Atlanta.
Oh,
Some more painful flirting ensues before Andy invites Evan to go into town with her. They go into some random thrift store called Wagner's Novelties and Sundries, where Evan finds a blue can with a mysterious substance inside called monster blood. Ooh. Wagner, the store owner, gets mad for some reason and insists it isn't for sale, but then immediately sells it to them for $2. I thought this was a...
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was like enthralled. He sold it to him for $2 after being like, no, it's not for sale. What the fuck? Go ahead.
For just $2. Like, you weared me down, kid.
You think he'd upcharge a little?
Yeah, but maybe he really wanted to sell it. It's just his ploy. But Wagner's, what was it, in Sundries? You never went to the old Sundries shop on a nice, crisp Saturday morning.
Day. Yeah, no, like that's what I do every Saturday morning is go to the Sundries. I mean, who wouldn't? It's almost a requirement.
I feel like there used to be more random shops than now, but more like antiquing or like specialty like clothes shops. I don't know. Have been to a
I think a lot of those are hard
maybe.
to survive. With
especially now.
Like eBay and other antique websites and stuff too. It's changed the game. Plus, not to mention like leasing a shop and stuff is very expensive.
Too bad, because we could be finding some monstery finds, spooky finds.
Yeah, like some monster blood that we sell to children for $2 after telling them it's not for sale.
Do a vlog with me and I just go into random sundry shops and be like, ooh, it's a spooky spoon.
Spooky spoon. Oh my god. Yeah. Every time you go to eat cereal with it, it passes right through. No. You just keep trying sadly to keep eating with it and it never works.
That actually would be amazing.
It'd be so upsetting. This is my only spoon. Oh god, you good?
Yeah.
Ah, fucking $2. That's insane. You think it would be worth a little more to the bastard.
Weird interaction at first, but I've got a tinfoil hat theory about it now. I think the only reason Mr. Stein made Wagner get mad at first was so he could use it for a chapter cliffhanger. One thing I noticed while reading Monster Blood was that almost every chapter ends in a cliffhanger. At the end of the first chapter, Aunt Catherine meets them at the door wielding a bloody knife. It's revealed in the next chapter that she's just chopping up some beef. Second chapter, Evan opens the closet and something jumps out at him. As it turns out, it's Catherine's cat, Sarah Beth.
Oh my
Third
God.
chapter, Catherine tells Evan to, quote, bring the dog so she can take care of it. Turns out she meant for Evan to just take it outside. You get the idea. There's a cliffhanger at the end of every single chapter. Now, I didn't remember it being like that for the first two books I read, but I went back and checked, and they were like this too. I think the reason that it stuck out to me more with Monster Blood was that the chapters are way shorter. Welcome to Dead House only had 18 chapters, which is the least out of any Goosebumps book, fun fact. Stay Out of the Basement has a few more, but it's still only 21 chapters. Monster Blood, on the other hand, has 29. So that meant I was reading the cliffhangers in much quicker succession than before, and it meant that there were more of them overall. Hey, when you need cliffhangers, you need cliffhangers. So let's make Wagner get mad out of nowhere. Hey, what are you doing with that? Hey, that's not for sale. Oh, you want to buy it? That'll be $2. Thanks. Evan and Andy go home and show the Monster Blood to Aunt Catherine, who seems nonplussed by it, which is very surprising considering how Evan and Andy find the Monster Blood in the show. In the TV episode, there's no Wagner, there's no store, there's no blue can. Instead, Evan goes into the bedroom across the hall from his and just finds it in a dusty cabinet. Aunt Catherine warns him not to go in there and acts like it's a really big deal.
Boy, this room is forbidden. Do you understand?
But of course, there's no locks or any other safety measures in place. At least the dad in Stay Out of the Basement had the sense to lock up his restricted area.
I put locks on the basement windows.
Evan and Andy start playing with the Monster Blood. It bounces. It stretches. It glows in the dark. They're really impressed by it. Well, in the show they are, at least. The book version of Evan thinks it's actually
So it's just
not that great.
lying.
Even though whenever Andy asks if she can have it, he gets really protective. Sir, readings indicate no Riz in sight. Repeat, no Riz.
No
there's this
Riz.
part in the book I thought was kind of interesting. Evan's on his way home to meet up with Andy when he runs into these teenage neighborhood bullies. And their names are Rick and Tony. Rick and Tony Bamer. Now, I'm really proud of myself for recognizing this, but this is actually a West Side Story Easter egg. One of the twins is named Tony, and Tony is also the name of the main character in West Side Story. The actor who portrays Tony in the 1961 film is named Richard Bamer, which you could also shorten to Rick. Now, why would Mr. Stein name the neighborhood bullies after Richard Bamer? I have no idea. I guess he just likes West Side Story. And to be fair, the original film is one of my favorites too. Don't believe me? Check out my Blu-ray box set. Yeah, that's right. I take West Side Story very seriously. It's like Mr. Stein named these bullies specifically for me and where my interests overlap. Richard Bamer is most well known for his role as Tony, but he also had some horror roles as well. For example, he also plays the nefarious hotel owner Ben Horn on Twin Peaks.
No way. It always goes back to Twin Peaks. No fucking way. Every goddamn time. Oh god, I love Twin Peaks so much. Oh, it's so good.
Just playing, how many steps are removable is it from Twin Peaks?
Pretty much, it'll all come back to Twin Peaks in the end. Even Dune. Oh, guys, we recently, like within the last year or so, watched Twin Peaks for the first time, and God, what a trip. We really liked it. I mean, it's very weird and it's a very slow burn, but I don't know. I feel like I came out loving it somehow.
True. It's one of those things where it's like, I want to recommend it to people, but at the same time, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know if
I think some people would really struggle.
You have to have the will to watch it. It has to call to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a slower burn show, but I do recommend Twin Peaks to anyone who hasn't watched it. Brilliant show. I mean, it's not that, it's hard to explain.
It's brilliant and equal parts goofy.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, thank you. Oh, Jesus.
At least to me.
No, you're right. You're definitely right. It's just hard to describe. It's like a murder mystery, kind of.
/ 90s daytime soap opera?
/ existential crisis. Interpretation of the universal existence story?
Yeah.
But yeah, one thing. Oh, wait, go ahead.
I said just react to freaking the detective memes.
Oh yeah, it'd be great. Agent Cooper, guys, the best. One thing you guys will learn about me, at least, I can't speak for Una, but I am terrible at remembering actors' names and what they've been in. Like, I am very bad at this. So I had no idea that this guy was in that.
Yeah.
That's funny. You good?
Which is something that blew my mind when I suddenly realized it about halfway through watching that series. Apart from Twin Peaks, Richard Bamer also starred in a classic for all the wrong reasons 80s horror film Silent Night, Deadly Night 3. Better watch out. Now, even if you don't think you're familiar with the Silent Night, Deadly Night series, you may be more familiar than you think. For example, perhaps you have seen this clip.
Garbage Day!
This clip is from Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. And no, that's not Richard Bamer. That's an actor named Eric Freeman, who went on to win an Oscar for his spectacular performance as the Santa Claus killer in this movie. Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 actually went on to sweep all the major categories that year. The Academy had never seen anything like it.
So funny.
He didn't leave me.
To this day, I find it fascinating that Bamer was in a movie in this franchise. But hey, he's 85 now and still making things. In fact, most of the cast of West
Good
Side
for
Story
him.
is still out there doing stuff. Look, here's George Chakiris and Rita Moreno from earlier this year. The people in this photo are both 91 years old. What are they drinking? Unicorn blood? Speaking of blood, Evan and Andy check in on the monster blood and find out it's growing. Actually, that's most of the book. The monster blood continues to grow each chapter, to both Evan and Andy's amazement. It outgrows the blue can. It outgrows the bucket. It just keeps growing and growing. And to make matters worse, Trigger, the dog, actually eats some of it. And you can probably guess what the effects are. Now, in the book, Trigger slowly grows over many chapters. In chapter 11, Trigger outgrows his collar, and Evan has to remove it to stop him from choking. Pretty traumatic experience there, by the way. One of my worst fears is
Yeah,
walking
that's
into my
terrifying.
dog choking on something. Later, Evan notices that Trigger has doubled in size. They take him to the vet. Now,
Clifford.
normally, a Cocker Spaniel that has grown to twice its size in just a few days would set off some alarm bells. But this is an adult character in a Goosebumps book, so they're not alarmed at all. Trigger keeps growing until he's the size of a pony. Evan and Andy finally make the connection that the dog eating the monster blood is probably what's causing it to grow. Wait,
Really? Really,
that's
guys?
getting bigger. And then this is getting bigger. Oh! Come on, Evan and Andy, or Evandy, as I'm going to start calling you because you're basically one
Evandy.
little hive mind. All right? Get it together.
Hey,
You're
the
not going to
children
stop the monster blood
learn
like
that.
this. Pick up the pace.
You mean
They're
it's
trying their
growing?
best.
Scientific
That's
method.
exactly what I mean.
So yeah, in the book, it's a slow burn. But in the show, Evandy just walk outside one day and...
It's like we've got a 10-foot trigger running around the neighborhood. Should we go look for him? No.
We get it. They were on a tight budget. Back to the
No.
monster blood. Evandy notices that it isn't just growing. It's
No.
Fuck my dog. It's gone. It's gone. Jesus. I mean, I could not
He
give
has
up
his
on
own
my
life
dog
now.
like that. He's big enough. He can take on the bears and whatever else might be out there. He got it good.
Is this a- I just realized maybe it's supposed to imply he's like monstrous and they don't want to find him. I
Yeah,
don't
they're
know.
like
what
afraid.
to
Yeah, like
imply.
maybe that's what I think. Like they're trying to imply, like, oh, it'd be kind of scary to go find him when he's this big now, you know, or something. But I mean, would he just be the dog, or maybe he's transformed into a hellhound,
Ooh.
monster dog?
warm now.
It's warm.
And it's not
Gross.
bouncy anymore. It's sticky. Ugh. There's a lot of filler in the middle of the book documenting incremental changes in Trigger and in the monster blood. There's a couple scenes with the bully Bamer twins. Evan gets beat up at one point. There's even an entire chapter where Evan has not one, but two different dreams. What a waste of time. Actually, one of Evan's dreams is about him eating the monster blood and becoming a giant, which is what we in the biz call foreshadowing. Yep, Monster Blood 3. Mr. Stein remembered that Evan had this dream way back in book number 3 and wrote it into a whole nother book. What can I say? Sometimes dreams really do come true, or in this case, a nightmare. But don't worry, we've got like 26 more books in between this one and that one. Thank God. Evan pours the monster blood into an old bathtub sitting in storage at Aunt Catherine's house, and the monster blood tries to suck him into the tub and eat him. In the show, Andy's there to pull him out, but in the book, we have to read in excruciating detail his struggle to pull himself out of the tub. Interestingly, in the book version, Sarah Beth the cat appears to push him into the tub.
Evil cat.
The monster blood has grown out of control by this point, and Evandy are at a loss
Rude.
what to do about it.
Please, you're
In the
good.
book, they try to take it back to Wagner's where they bought it, but it's closed. The store is out of business, and Evandy are out of ideas. So they decide to both go home.
convenient.
Evan tries to store the monster blood in an outdoor trash bin, but oops, they knock it over. One thing leads to another, and now the monster blood is chasing after them. Along the way, it eats a live Robin. Wow. It also eats the Bamer twins, who were stopping by to beat up Evan again, I guess. The book describes how Evandy could
Yeah, suck it, bullies. Just
Justice.
get slimed. Jesus.
So someone from Monster Blood to Flubber
I mean, it is
to being an actual like monster.
well, it's like a
ooze
monster
that can eat
flubber.
you.
It's a monster flubber. The flubber is just
okay.
consuming people now and dissolving them into their bones. They're really doing my work, just freeing people's skeletons. Yes, I need this ooze for my work. Oh my god. Yeah, I can see why this one's pretty weak to John. This one's pretty bad.
See the silhouettes of the Bamer
Especially the
twins
TV show.
inside the translucent monster blood, which is kind of a cool visual. Anyway, evil Flubber over here is on the rampage by the
That's amazing. You call it, yeah, we're all on the same page. It's definitely a flubber.
Exactly.
That's fucking amazing. Oh my god.
the time Aunt
Menacing
Catherine sees
Flubber.
in the house. And now we get a big exposition dump.
Monster blood.
In the book, Aunt Catherine reveals she put a spell on the monster blood back when Evan first brought it to the house. The reason it's growing is because Catherine cursed it. Because she's a witch, you see. Furthermore, she was forced to do it by none other than Sarah Beth, her cat, who's actually another witch in disguise. Sarah Beth cursed Catherine with
She got
deafness
that
and wanted her to
transformation. That trying to think what do you call it? Change it into a cat.
Oh, transfiguration.
Magic. There you go. She got that down.
Yeah,
She was bullying
she
them
does.
in the
She
shape of a
definitely does.
cat. No one knew the tweast. The tweast
Yeah,
is
look at
bullying.
those plotting eyes.
You say that, I look at him like, oh, it's just a
Yeah,
baby.
me too. I one day hope to adopt a black cat because I would love a black cat.
Yeah,
Black
they're
cats are
just
great.
sweet. Sweet little voids.
actually another witch in disguise. Sarah Beth cursed Catherine with deafness and wanted her to live in her house alone. But when Evan came to visit, Sarah Beth wanted to use the cursed monster blood to drive him out. So then Sarah Beth transforms from a cat into her true witchy form.
That child is no cat.
And in classic early Goosebumps fashion, she orders the monster blood to kill the children. She even starts chanting, "Kill the children," over and over. You know, it's one thing to read Mr. Dawes from Welcome to the Dead House tell the kids it doesn't hurt to die, or the stay out of the basement dad trying to feed his kids this horrible food to turn them into plants. But reading this adult woman chant, "Kill the children," repeatedly is probably the most evil thing I've seen someone do in these books so far. I love it. Sarah Beth is such a one-dimensional
Yeah, exactly. I
character.
was going to say pause.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, kill the children. Kill the children.
Kill them all. Kill them all.
Eat the children. I think I've heard
Wait,
that too.
eat them. Eat them. Oh,
Yeah, especially from witches. I've heard like
But they
eat the
have
children.
tiny bones. That's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pain. I was gonna say this plot actually has turned him pretty metal for me. I'm liking this plot actually with the hiding witch.
I like
and the curses.
the book seems better than the show though, for sure. Because again, there's no
Yeah.
like she's not cursed to be deaf here.
True.
Like
I feel like this. Yeah, the show messes it up, but I feel like even the book, like this is a better premise, not served in this overall child's monster blood narrative. Maybe.
I think they
like
could have
everything's
some.
mashed
wait,
up.
I think there's pieces here to something that could be quite good, but I don't think it like came together quite right.
Agreed.
She's just totally evil. She keeps Aunt Catherine as her, quote, slave for like 2 decades. And then the first person other than Catherine she sees in those 20 years, she wants to kill. The Sarah Beth character just makes no sense to me. And just like the evil dad in Stay Out of the Basement, their motivations are never really explained. Now, I think it's good to leave some things up to the imagination, and I don't necessarily need everything spelled out for me, but in this case, I think she's just a really shallow character. Anyway, the horse-sized Trigger bounds up and pushes Sarah Beth into the monster blood. The monster blood consumes her, losing all of its magical properties and shrinks back to its normal size. You'll be relieved to hear that the Robin from earlier is just fine after all. Unfortunately, so are the Bamer twins. Trigger shrinks back to normal size. Evan's mother shows up just then to pick him up, and the book sort of just ends one page later, with Andy wanting to keep some monster blood as a souvenir. But what's this? It's gone. So yeah, the book, Monster Blood, is roughly 115 pages of just the green goo growing out of control. And then about 15
really
pages of
slow
sudden
for
backstory, and then it just ends. It's worth noting, too, that in the last 15 pages, there's 6 chapters. So a lot of that space is just blank half pages where either a chapter ends or there's a new chapter title. So it all happens very quickly. Now, I have a lot of thoughts about this, but before we get to them, we gotta talk about how the show handles this climactic scene because it's just silly. In the show version, Evandy don't buy monster blood from the thrift store. Instead, they find it in the room across the hall in Aunt Catherine's house. And when Evandy release the monster blood from the glass jar they find it in, they also release Sarah Beth the cat. And she spends the entire episode skulking around the house, unbeknownst to Aunt Catherine. After the monster blood starts going on a rampage, Aunt Catherine is shocked to see Sarah Beth and explains that she trapped her in the jar with the monster blood.
It was almost 30 years ago. I never would have taken her on as a boarder if I'd known she was practicing dark magic. Right when she had me, she stepped into the monster blood. She screamed like a banshee as the monster blood was consuming her. Then I locked it up and hoped that no one would ever find it.
Oh, but someone did find it.
Listen, I get that they were on budget limitations with this show, but considering that this isn't at all how the events of the book went, it's kind of like, well, you didn't even need to do it this way, and it looks really bad. Like, why was the monster blood there during Sarah Beth's little ritual? And all she has to do is step in it and it swallows her whole? Like, don't you think you should be a little more careful around this stuff? On top of that, Sarah Beth keeps doing these corny cat movements in the show, which, again, come across really silly. What's weird, too, is that Sarah Beth acts like she can control the monster blood.
Take them, my monster blood. Take them all.
Even though she just spent 20 years imprisoned in a jar after it ate her. So how does she have any control over it? Trigger shows up, and he's basically Clifford the Big Red Dog sized, and he barks.
Okay, I see it as a fail until we got to Clifford.
Well, I mentioned Clifford earlier. We are in the same wavelength. Flubber, Clifford, John gets us.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people mentioned Clifford. I was one of the best shows ever when I was like real young.
Barks at her a few times. She hisses at him, and the force of the barks make her stumble back into the monster blood again.
But doesn't she control it?
You know,
apparently
just think
not.
That after spending 20 years trapped in a jar with the monster blood because you accidentally stepped into it that one time, that you wouldn't make the exact same mistake again mere seconds after becoming human again. One interesting difference in this scene is that in the show, Sarah Beth screams as she gets consumed by the monster blood. But in the book, it chillingly describes her as never uttering a sound as she was pulled inside. Now, we haven't rated this one yet, but I think it's no secret that Monster Blood, not one of my favorite Goosebumps stories. But still, I'm impressed at how in every book so far, there's at least one line that Mr. Stein puts in there that I'm like, ooh. That's pretty much it for the TV episode as well, except, wait, what's this? Evan's on a plane? Yeah, so the TV show never adapted the Monster Blood sequels into episodes, so instead they made a mostly original episode called More Monster Blood that's basically just Monster Blood on a plane.
I have had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
It's not a good episode. We might talk about it briefly if we manage to get to the
damn.
Monster Blood sequel books, because there's a tiny bit of overlap, but I'll just tell you that the way they beat the Monster Blood this time is by feeding it airline food.
Airline food makes the monster blood sick.
Yeah. Monster Blood. It's a Monster Blood drive. I like how they just kind of say the name of the book again on the cover blurb. That's a classic. So I say we rate this thing. For Spine Shivers, which rates how scary the story is, I'm giving
Oh yeah, pausing right before the grading. Yeah.
Like, it can eat anything, humans, birds, witches,
Trash, apparently. Like, just consume
but
it.
not disgusting subpar airline food.
Yep, airline food. That shows you guys you should not eat airline food except the little pack of peanuts they give you at the start. Unless you're allergic, don't eat those.
It's so played for like kid comedy horror drama, but it's just so goofy.
It's such
The
a
premise.
It's like such a dumb solution to like defeating a monster. Like, oh, the airline food's so bad that it killed the monster. It's like scary movie level, like antagonist defeat. What a kryptonite. Flight on Southwest, most terrifying thing the monster could experience. All right, you're good.
Yeah, it was trapped. It was trapped in there. Really, that airline food instead of the.
It was just in a bigger can. It was just meeting its neighbors. I mean, it was just trying to get used to its new can, the plane.
Okay.
giving both the book and the show a 1 out of 5. It's just not scary. While Dead House and Basement were pretty much psychological thrillers, Monster Blood is more of a sci-fi fantasy concept. Like I said earlier, it's basically just evil flubber. And all the Sarah Beth versus Catherine witch stuff didn't really help. Monster Blood is Mr. Stein's first truly weird book, I'll give it that much. But it's not a scary one. For Funny Bones, which rates how funny the story is, I'll give the book a 2. Evandy has some entertaining banter, and like I just said, the characters are pretty weird. Aunt Catherine says some really off-the-wall things, and the ending where a horse-sized Cocker Spaniel gallops into the living room to knock an evil witch into the goo is pretty funny. I don't know, maybe I'll give it a 3. I've been kind of mean to Monster Blood this whole video, so I'll be nice this time. The show's only getting 1 funny bone though. Sorry, Conductor Catherine. Finally, we had the category Closet Skeletons, which rates the twist ending. I'm giving the book 2 closet skeletons because even though I didn't like all the witch twists, it was definitely unexpected. It also ends with the Monster Blood disappearing, which was a nice simple touch. The show I'm gonna give a 1 though. This whole ending sequence is just ridiculous. Overall, I'll give the book a C. It's not particularly scary or funny, but the mystery of the goo kept me interested at least. I'm not ready to give it a D or lower. There's too many other Goosebumps books that would deserve that grade more. The show, on the other hand, yeah, this gets a D from me. First failing grade of the series. I don't envy the showrunners having to adapt something this fantastical on what was clearly a low budget, but what can I say? I still didn't like it. I can only give them so much slack. I'm officially a Monster Blood hater. I'm like Sarah Beth. I just revealed my true nature. He's a hater in disguise. So there you have it, my full thoughts on Monster Blood. Now, if you're depressed right now because it wasn't that great, I'm gonna need you to perk up a little bit for this next one, because this might be the first truly great book in the series. Say cheese and die. But first,
let
me take a selfie.
This one I like.
Let me take a selfie.
Hey, what's wrong with this camera? It must be broken.
Oh no.
Say cheese and die. What an intense name, and a suitably intense story, too. Released in November 1992, this is the 4th book in the Goosebumps series, and arguably the most well-known of the early entries. All right, let's take a look at the art, which is a pretty iconic Goosebumps cover.
One picture is worth 1,000 screams. And look, skeleton family. My people.
Oh, it's just a wholesome skeleton family cookout with scary.
They're having burgers, some hot doggos. They're just chilling, you know.
It's a photo.
Yeah, nice looking family.
Of a skeleton barbecue. I'm gonna ask the obvious question:
now.
how exactly are they gonna eat those burgers? Color scheme's not bad either. Red and blue, classic combination. We've got a great Goosebumps cover here. I'm giving this one 4 out of 5 Necronomicons.
Yeah,
Our story
that's pretty
centers
good.
on a group of friends, and especially one friend in particular, Greg Banks. Now wait, I know what you're thinking, and the answer is yes, you're right. That is Renessa Blitz, the voice of Janet Pearlstein in the Magic School Bus. Frankly, it's really impressive you were able to recognize her just on her voice. But no, yeah, that's Ryan
Oh my
Gosling.
God.
Barbie, The Notebook, Blade Runner 2049.
Oh.
You know who he is.
Yeah.
And he is far and away the best actor in this episode of Goosebumps. The whole first chapter of Say Cheese and Die is based around building up the dynamic between this group of 4 friends. And while I was reading, I found myself surprised at how fun the dialogue was. These characters joke around with each other, but it's not annoying like a lot of the sibling banter can be, especially in later books. Don't get me wrong, they get their wisecracks in, but it's usually pretty good-natured, and when push comes to shove, this group helps each other out. I know, I thought it was nice to read a more positive, fun atmosphere among the kids in this story. They poke fun at each other and joke around, but it felt like I actually got to know them a bit more than the kids in the other books. Now, the TV episode attempts to replicate the book's joking banter, but it kind of falls short.
I heard he eats rats.
It's cats.
I heard it was bats. Ew, tasty.
Wow, what a knee slapper that was. It's not like they're rip-roaring hilarious in the book or anything, but it was better than whatever that was. Weirdly, the friends in the TV episode never really joke around like that again. Part of that is because, just like Monster Blood, this one's not a 2-part episode. So they had to get in all the major plot points quickly. Speaking of which, I should probably start doing that myself. So other than the main character Greg Banks, there's Sherry Walker and Doug Arthur, better known by his nickname Bird. There's a 4th character named Michael Warner, but they cut him from the TV episode. It's fine though, Michael's not funny like the rest of them. The group of friends are talking about how bored they are, and there's nothing to do in their town, when Michael gets the bright idea they should explore the abandoned Kaufman house. Now in the show, this is clearly some industrial warehouse or something, but in the book, it seems like it's just a residential house. The group's on the lookout for a weird guy named Spidey, who seems to be squatting at the old Kaufman house. Look at how he runs here.
Come on, you guys. Let's check this place out before they finally tear it down.
The kids explore the Kaufman house, where they find a mysterious old camera.
I think this thing's a camera.
I like how that's Greg's first thought in the show. Hey, this mysterious thing that looks nothing like a camera is probably a camera. The thing that you'll notice about the TV episode, though, is that they're really pressed for time. So I guess they just didn't feel like including a 3-minute segment of Greg, like, theory crafting what the mysterious device could be. Immediately, Greg's friends want to use it to take a picture. Bird goes up the stairs, and Greg takes his picture.
Say cheese.
Cheddar.
Slight difference here in the book. It's book-exclusive character Michael who takes the photo op on the stairs. Mere moments later, the stair railing collapses and he falls down. In the TV episode, Spidey shows up to confront the kids and somehow falls at the same spot. What made him fall? Like, when Bird fell, it was because he was leaning on the unsturdy railing, but Spidey's fall looks completely ridiculous. In the book, things are slightly more serious.
You want a
The kid that
dramatic
falls,
out.
Michael, gets hurt, so his friends have to help him. This is kind of what I meant
Wilhelm
earlier when I
scream.
mentioned that they help each other out when push comes to shove. Greg and friends are out of there in the end, though, safe at last. But then he notices something weird.
Greg, you took the camera. I didn't even notice I had it.
We've got to put it back.
Ain't no way we're going back now.
The pic he took of Bird shows him in the middle of falling off the stairs, which hadn't happened yet when he took the photo.
What? It's a great action shot.
Yeah, but I took the picture before you fell.
No, well, maybe you only thought you did.
I know I did.
What's up with this camera, guys? Something weird's going on. I don't know. I just wanted to appear on camera again. I was tired of doing voiceover. Hi. After this, Greg starts taking a lot of pictures with the camera. And that's what most of the story's about. He takes a picture of his dad's new car, only to see the photo shows the car totaled. At dinner, Dad decides they're all going on a joyride in the new car.
I thought you'd be thrilled about the car.
He will be after he takes a spin in it. Come on, everybody. Let's go. We'll clean up later.
It's funny because Mr. Banks' new car is literally just a Ford Taurus. Now, I'm not a car guy at all. Trust me.
But the Ford Taurus is basically the plainest car of all time. But you wouldn't know that from the way the Banks family talks about it.
Whoa, this
Hey,
is nice, baby.
it's their first new car. They're just humble.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so sad.
Oh my
Always
god.
wanted a car with a little muscle.
Plenty of room back here, Dad. Ooh, look, a drink holder. They talk about it like it's a sports car. Am I just blissfully unaware of how the Taurus was perceived in 1992? I feel like I'm being gaslit. Was it being advertised like this?
For all of us who demand excellence in design and function, for all of us who will not compromise, Ford listened. Ford created Taurus for us.
For us!
All right, so maybe times have changed. Let's get back to Say Cheese and Die. Anyway, the joyride ends abruptly.
That one's out!
The Banks family is okay, but Greg's weirded out. Later, Greg takes a photo of his brother Terry. The camera spits out a photo of Terry looking terrified. That's right. Just like how the Banks family is never safe from the evil camera, you're never safe from one of my puns. Greg continues his camera rampage by taking a photo of Bird at his baseball game, and he's sprawled out unconscious on the ground in the photo. Mere minutes later, Bird gets beamed in the head by a baseball and sprawls out on the ground, just like in the photo. Terry shows up to the baseball game and tells Greg that their dad's been in a car accident. And to add to Greg's horror, Terry looks just like he did in the photo earlier.
The car, man. It's totaled.
Side note, there's so much focus on the car in this story that they even framed their dad's accident as the car was totaled, as if that's the main concern. It's all right though. Mr. Banks is fine.
Well, I guess I'm pretty lucky.
Okay, so now that we've established that the actual human
car was the
driving
one
is all
hope.
right, how about that muscle car though?
The car's a complete wreck.
Will we be able to get another new car? Terry ponders at one point. Sorry, I keep harping on it. I just think it's funny.
And how's the car? Did it get wrecked?
So far, Greg's new camera has seemingly caused bad things to happen to his friend Michael, his friend Bird, his brother Terry, and even his dad. So finally, something bad happens to Sherry. Sherry tells Greg she wants him to bring the camera to her birthday party. She insists that Greg take her picture, except when Greg shows her what he took, she's not in the photo.
Greg, you totally miss me.
This is kind of a weird scene in the book because it's just a few chapters previous where Sherry was actually working with Greg, trying to sleuth out mysteries of the camera, like where to put the film in. She notices that there's no brand name on it. And so far, Greg's shown her most of the ominous photos that he's taken that have ended up coming true. But for this part, she kind of just throws all that out the window and is just like, come on, Greg, take my picture.
Will you just take the picture?
Oh yeah, we should probably talk about this awkward scene in the show. So instead of Sherry having a birthday party, Greg and Bird just randomly end up in her backyard. And how'd they end up there? Well, they're running away from these two bullies, Joey and Mickey, who have some of my favorite bully dialogue I've ever heard.
Come on, Joey, look, give it back. It's not mine.
That's because it's mine.
Side note, if any of you are fans of the show Letterkenny, you may recognize the actor playing Joey as the guy who plays McMurray on that show. What can I say? He has a very recognizable face, and I'm good at recognizing. Anyway, Greg and Bird run away from them and jump the fence into Sherry's
I would
yard.
not.
It's an awkward transition, but not as awkward as Sherry's obvious ADR voiceover in this scene.
Come on, Greg. Let's try again.
Sherry.
Greg.
I don't do ADR.
I seriously have no idea what's up with her voice in this scene in particular, but it's like every single one of Sherry's lines was done in post-production. And what's crazy too is that the redone lines are really bad.
Come on. How's this?
Make sure the sound is right this time.
As if this scene needed to get even more awkward, this is also when they decide to have Terry run up and tell Greg about their dad's accident.
There's been an accident.
In the book, Terry finds Greg at a baseball field, but in the episode, they decided to cram in as much into the scene as possible, I guess. How did Terry get into Sherry's backyard?
Like Batman.
We're starting to see some of the cracks in the TV adaptation of Say Cheese and Die.
Because it's not a two-parter like some of the other ones that we've watched so far, they have to cram in all these creepy camera moments back to back to back. And the only way that they can really do that is by having every character demand that their picture be taken as soon as they enter a scene.
Okay, take my picture.
Take my picture.
Well, I'll take my picture then.
Now you can take my picture.
In the book, it's a lot more natural. Although, like I said, Sherry telling Greg to bring his camera to her birthday party is still kind of weird. Oh yeah, you may remember that Sherry wasn't in the photo Greg took. Well, as it turns out, mere hours later, Sherry disappears.
She's missing, disappeared.
In the episode, there's this weird confrontational scene where two police officers absolutely grill Greg on his front porch about when he last saw Sherry. In the book, Greg has a conversation with a police officer about Sherry's disappearance, but the officer is much more understanding and much less suspicious than their TV show counterparts. Speaking of which, Mr. Long Arm of the Law over here is Scott Speedman, who you may recognize for his roles in the Underworld movies, as well as starring in home invasion thriller The Strangers alongside Liv Tyler. And on the side here is Karen Robinson, who played Ronnie on Schitt's Creek, and actually ended up reuniting with Ryan Gosling for the movie Lars and the Real Girl 11 years later. She played a character named Cindy. Wow, what a star-studded episode of Goosebumps. You know, you'd think it would have maybe rubbed off somehow on the quality of the show, but sad to say, this isn't one of their best. And it's too bad because the book version of this story is really good.
Nah, this is
At about
90s
this point when I
quality.
was
Yeah, the lack thereof.
reading Say Cheese and Die, I realized that a lot of the issues Greg was facing were realistic horrors that anybody could be faced with in their lifetime. He sees his dad get injured in a brutal car accident. His friend disappears. They don't show this part in the show, but in the book, Greg comes home to find out he's been burglarized. Whereas in the previous books, the scary things that happen to the kids are clearly fantastical in nature. In Say Cheese and Die, they're scary things that realistically happen to people. It's one of the reasons this is considered one of Mr. Stein's scarier Goosebumps stories. Now, the influence of the camera on these events is obviously supernatural, but even with that, it still comes across more grounded than other Goosebumps stories. Anyway, it's about this point in the story where Greg's had it, and he rips up the photos he took of Sherry. The photos of the tree. Wouldn't you know it, 2 hours later, the phone rings, and it's Sherry. In the TV episode, she just kind of awkwardly shows back up.
Greg.
Sherry. Are you okay?
Yeah. Well, I guess so.
Great, thanks, Sherry. Really enlightening. Sherry goes on to say that she doesn't remember where she went after she disappeared.
She doesn't know.
In fact, she doesn't remember being anywhere at all. Ooh, pretty creepy. Greg decides the only way to end all this is to take the camera back to where he found it.
I'm gonna bring it back.
Not gonna destroy it.
Back where it came from, also help me.
Now, if you've been paying attention to the structure of these stories so far, you probably know that we're heading into Act 3 of Mr. Stein's usual 3-act structure. And what does Act 3 usually contain? That's right, it's exposition dump time. Greg and Sherry are putting the camera back where they found it, where they're confronted by none other than Spidey, and he's got some weird things to say.
Primitive tribes fear the camera. They believe that if it takes their picture, it will steal their soul.
I mean, is it any surprise a guy that looks like this is a little bit of a drama queen? Just get to the point, man.
What?
Never mind. Keep going, I guess.
What?
Spidey explains that he invented the camera. It not only predicts the future when it takes a photograph, it makes that future happen. Spidey's exposition is a little different in the book.
Bargain
He actually
bin,
says it's his lab partner who
Doc.
invented the camera, not him. But in both the book and the episode, his conclusion is the same.
You know too much. I can't let you leave.
They end up struggling with Spidey until Sherry takes his photograph and he disappears just like she did. In the book, Spidey just straight up dies after he has his photo taken. I actually half prefer what they did in the episode, where they show Spidey's soul trapped in the camera, just like the primitive tribes he described feared would happen to them. Pretty dark ending, huh? Well, I'm about to make you sad because they ruin it in the very next scene.
Here's what I meant by I half prefer the episode's ending. So the bullies from earlier, Joey and Mickey, track down the camera in Spidey's house. I don't know why they're so obsessed with this thing.
Here, take my picture.
Mickey takes Joey's photo, and they end up releasing Spidey, who leaves us with this goofy grin as the credits roll. Bro, what are you so smug about? You got your butt handed to you by a couple kids earlier. You think you could take these teenage bullies? The book's ending is much better. The bullies just end up taking a picture, and the book ends before they can see what develops. See?
That's way better.
Say
That's what I
cheese
thought was
and
gonna
die.
happen on the show.
One picture is worth 1,000 screams. That's what it says right here. It's funny. This whole skeleton barbecue picnic cover that Tim Jacobus came up with actually originally didn't appear in the story, but the publisher made Mr. Stein write it in as a dream sequence. Fun fact. All right, enough stalling. Let's rate this thing. For spine shivers, aka the story's scare factor, I'm giving the book a solid 4 out of 5. Like I outlined earlier, I really like how grounded the horror was in this one. Aside from the evil camera, Say Cheese and Die describes a lot of realistic, horrific scenarios a regular person might go through. And it helps that the characters are pretty well written compared to the other books.
It's like Final Destination is kind of what it makes me think of in terms of like, it's still like real world things that happen. So it makes it kind of spookier, I feel.
For example, when Greg first discovers the camera.
Oh yeah, I
it's like, it's like a found item that's spooky and it's hard to get people to believe. So like kind of like almost it's like more mundane, but like ominous.
Yeah, it's not just the camera. And I feel like the show's embellishing how the camera looks so different. I feel like the camera wasn't that different from like a standard camera.
Yeah, I was trying like, what does that thing look like?
Something from VR Troopers or something. Like definitely not a camera weird. Though. Like a helmet.
Regular person might go through. And it helps that the characters are pretty well written compared to the other books. For example, when Greg first discovers the camera, Mr. Stein takes time to tell us about how Greg wants to be a photographer, traveling the world someday. I have no idea what Evan from Monster Blood wanted to be when he grew up, or what the siblings in Welcome to Dead House or Stay Out of the Basement wanted to be, but we get that little bit of insight for Greg. It's little things like this that make the story feel a lot more grounded. For the episode, though, they tried their best, but I think I'm just gonna go with 2 spine shivers. They really should have made Say Cheese and Die a 2-parter. For Funny Bones, aka the story's comedic factor, I'm giving the book a 2. The characters joke around a lot and it had some good snarky quips, but nothing about the camera or its photos was zany or comedic. Still, it's better than the episode, which I'm giving a 1, despite some scenes being unintentionally funny. The character banter was really weak, and there was really only time to move from one plot point to the next. Finally, we have Closet Skeletons, which measures the twist ending. Say Cheese and Die doesn't really have much of a twist ending. I guess you could consider Spidey revealing himself as the camera's inventor to be a small twist, but everything else was pretty straightforward. I think they both get just 1 closet skeleton. Actually, I think the book gets 2 because I like the cliffhanger end. Overall grade for the book? Well, it's our first A. And that's as high as it goes, by the way. I'm not doing S ranks. Yeah, that's right. These are traditional grades. The episode, though, it's getting a C. Sorry, Ryan Gosling, but they tried to cram too much in there, and you didn't get much help from your co-stars. All done with Say Cheese and Die. Just kidding, we actually have another adaptation to talk about.
Wait, what?
So in the new 2023 Goosebumps series, a character named Isaiah finds the evil camera. Although in this one, it doesn't look like an alien toaster. It just looks like a regular camera. Just like Greg Banks did, Isaiah immediately begins irresponsibly snapping photos with it. And he slowly figures out that the photos he takes predict a bad future. The sequence of events in Goosebumps 2023 is similar to the original story, although since the new show isn't an anthology, the evil camera is actually part of a bigger story this time around. One thing I thought was interesting was that in the original story, it's well established that the camera is indestructible.
It can't be destroyed.
But in the new show, Isaiah just starts smashing it with a hammer, and then he sets it on fire. This is something I wish Greg had done.
The most he ever tries is just throwing the camera on the ground.
Look, not a scratch.
Come on, Greg, put some elbow grease into it like Isaiah over here.
Oh my God.
As you might expect, the evil camera reappears intact in Isaiah's locker, and he ends up dealing with the reality of the photos he took. Now, the 2023 version of Say Cheese and Die is a tough one to judge because, like I said earlier, it's part of a bigger story. And actually, as of the recording of this video, they're not done releasing episodes yet. So I can't really speak to whether or not the camera comes back beyond the first episode. But, well, let's just say if you wanted more than 10 total minutes of the episode dedicated to the evil camera, you will be disappointed. And it's not just the evil camera that gets the shaft. There are some other classic stories that get the 10-minute treatment too. Some of them I was glad didn't get more attention. And others I wish had gotten more.
Yeah.
Say Cheese and Die falls into the latter category.
You're gonna
I'm
hate
not sure
Joey
what
Worms.
further story there is to tell with the evil camera, but I feel like they could have done more with it than just rehash an abridged version of the original story. Now you might say, well, what else could you even do with a story about a camera like this? Well, what if I told you that Mr. Stein got the idea for this story from an episode of The Twilight Zone, aptly titled
Yeah,
A
the
Most
Superior Show.
Unusual Camera. The episode's a bit different than Say Cheese and
Yeah,
Die, to say the least. It's about some criminals who find a camera that can predict the future, and they immediately start using it to win bets at horse racing. Now, as you might guess, the criminals get greedy and they meet a tragic end. But instead of the camera bringing about their downfall, it's themselves. My point is, just like Mr. Stein took this Twilight Zone episode and gave it a twist, they could have also given Mr. Stein's story a twist for the new series. But instead, it's basically the same story. Womp womp. In conclusion, Say Cheese and Die,
Womp womp.
iconic story in the Goosebumps series. Monster Blood, not so much. But hey, they can't all be winners. Except Ryan Gosling. He stays winning. Ain't that right, Ryan?
Thanks.
Yeah, he cut his
Thanks.
chops back on the old Goosebumps.
It's so funny.
On that note, I'm like, which acting looked cheesier, the 90s one or that 2003 one?
You
Or
know,
2023?
it's like a different kind of cheesy, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like I don't know. It was like it's like trying to be more realistic in the modern 2020s one, but at the same time, it like crosses a threshold where it just becomes stupid again.
Yeah, because like they act so hyper.
See, like the acting of the 90s is just kind of lame. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, With this, it's just like, oh no, who wrote this? I don't know. We haven't actually watched any of the new Goosebumps, so maybe there's some good episodes in there, but that didn't seem very good.
That clip of him popping out the door with the cheese was
camera,
like,
yeah, that was
made me
like,
go, ooh.
whoa, bruh. Whoa. It's like such an
jump scare, but yeah, it's more like aggressively
way
goofy.
to take a
I don't
picture.
know.
Yeah, it's like weird, and a weird, goofy thing to do. Because would anyone this day and age even know how to use a camera like that? That's the real
Randomly,
question.
the funny thing is, randomly there are some like, I guess
Well,
for
of
like
course.
photography, scrapbooking, and it's like nostalgia or like taking quick shots. They do things like Instax or Instax now, where it does kind of pop out like a Polaroid, but it's a little like cuter.
Well, I'm thinking like
and a
an
little bit better
average
quality.
person, right? Like I feel like
Yeah,
you kind of have to be a
but-
hobbyist or a professional to really get those things.
Most people, don't anymore.
Most people just pull out their phone and snap a photo, digitally.
Yeah.
Like if you just saw a random like, camera just sitting in a dusty room and like, where were they? Like a college? Would you interact with it?
Probably not, but maybe, you never know. I'm like,
Fair
ooh, it's
enough.
camera.
Camera time. Fair enough. But yeah, I do agree.
No,
I
she
think
didn't
the
think anything
book
wrong
is-
with it.
I definitely read the book. I never watched the show. The book is
Mm.
much better in the way it's written, and again, having the cliffhanger ending is a much better improvement over what the show did. The show making Spider come back was dumb. I liked it better if he. Oh, go ahead.
Over the top bargain bin talk. That's what I said.
Oh yeah. Well, see, it was better when
the
they got
shots
trapped.
of him though.
Yeah,
was good.
well, yeah. He had his own like Wilhelm
So goofy.
scream. That scream needs to be more popularized and reused as a meme, just like the Wilhelm scream. Because man, he fell off those stairs hard. It was like probably the best scene in the show, to be honest. Besides,
He's
him
like, I'm an
getting
old
trapped.
doctor. I can't take it.
I think
my
the problem
insurance.
with it too is it minimizes the success of the main characters when he's trapped in the camera for what, like 5 minutes?
True.
Like, he should have been trapped in that camera for at least a decade. That would make it better. Century later, someone finally uses it.
Yeah, how did that wacky dude make that?
That is a question that I don't think we'll ever get an answer to. But yeah, overall, I like. I feel like both stories had nuggets of like good things in them, but the TV shows were definitely weak comparatively to the books. Although I do agree with John a lot that Monster Blood is just not very good.
I like put my mind in, the perspective of the old like child or tween in the 90s, and like would this hit more? I think I'd still maybe be interested or have fun with these episodes, but
Apparently, it hit enough that
some of
they
them are a little
made,
goofy.
Like
Yeah, well,
three
yeah.
more sequels of Monster Blood for some reason. It's funny because I think I've read 2, 3, and 4, but I never read 1. I think I just
But
got
yeah,
them
these type
like
of
from a
shit-
sale. Like a half price bookstore or something. And they had what they had.
Yeah. Splurge on some deals on Goosebumps.
Yeah, gotta get them Goosebumps.
Little baby skeleton, like, give me my Goosebumps.
For half off, please.
But yeah, so I'm like, cause like I'm 90s shows, like just like the type of shows and how they film things and like this genre, it also did well. So I'm like, you kind of hold your attention, and sometimes that's what you want from these shows. Really.
I really feel like the last one, it was too quick with too many plot points. I really think it being a two-parter would have aided in it actually being good. And it's kind of funny
True.
they had so many like bigger name actors on the cast for that one episode. It's like, what the hell? It did
They're
not help.
just a bit or small actors at the time.
Yeah, they were a bit early. They were before their prime. But yeah, that was really fun. I really think I really like these videos. It's just fun to go through them again with John as he analyzes both the shows and the books comparatively. I think it's a really interesting exercise. Any closing statements?
Say cheese Monday through Friday.
Say cheese Monday through Friday. What about Saturday and Sunday?
What's the mother effing like censorship? What's his name? Samuel Jackson reference. Is it too late? Is it too late?
Yeah. It may be too late. Oh my god. Damn it. Well,
like that button
Wait,
Or
like
die.
that button? Like that button? Like the video? Yeah, guys, if you
It
enjoy
is
watching this
obviously.
reaction, it's late. Yeah, it's late. Thanks so much for watching this with us. We really are enjoying recording these. If you have any comments again about like what this maybe brought up for you of Goosebumps memories, or even maybe Tales of the Crypt or Twilight Zone, we'd love to hear about that. So leave a comment below and subscribe if you want more. And we will talk to you all later. Thanks for watching.
Bye.